Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So apologies for the lack of posting, life's been a bit hectic and I also managed to injure my back, which caused me to have a really bad sciatica, really painful. So if any of you have ever had that before, you actually have my biggest sympathies. I've never felt so much pain in my life. Sitting was painful, standing was painful, breathing was painful, coughing was painful, everything was just painful. And yeah, it was an absolute nightmare, and painkillers don't seem to do much to even make a dent in nerve damage, so that was fantastic. Anyway, came on here quickly because I'm always wanting to be able to tell people or direct people towards books that are going to sort of help aid their understanding. And obviously there are loads and loads of textbooks out there, but normally they require you to have some kind of understanding in the first place. And normally you only use textbooks as an accompaniment to a course at, say, let's say university. And that's great. But I don't actually think that makes it accessible for everyone. And also, I don't understand how we expect to encourage people to go into doing economics, let's say at university, or even just to get into it a bit more, if there's nothing out there that can kind of inspire them to do so by giving them the basic understanding in one, a fun way, but two, a really accessible way. You know, a way that doesn't make you sit there having to like look up everything on Google and like essentially do work to understand it. Now, as a way to kind of like try and improve the economics literacy of people in England, the Bank of England came up with a book, and it's this one here. Can't we just print more money? And I think they also came out of this to try and maybe explain inflation to people, because obviously since inflation and quantitative easing, because obviously, well, not obviously, but you know, when COVID, quantitative easing became more prominent in the news, and now with the cost of living crisis, inflation has become a big thing. Although this was, when did this actually come out? I don't know. One second. Copyright first published in 2022. Okay, so you know, fairly recent. Although we are somehow into September already. So I thought I would read this and tell you guys whether or not it is worth reading. You know, do the hard work for you, because it's nothing more infuriating than spending money on books, but spending money on bad books is just like not great. So I didn't hold it on much hope. When I bought this, I thought, oh, here we go. It's going to be, it's going to be the classic economists from the Bank of England who, in their eyes, think they've written something that's sort of really intuitive and accessible, and it actually isn't. But I owe them an apology. I massively eat my words. I thought this book was really good, and this is the kind of book that I think it can. The idea was this can go into schools, and yeah, I think it can. I don't think it's boring. I think it's actually quite an enjoyable read. They put in so many examples that are relatable. Well, actually, that is kind of true, but also I sit and think about it, and I think, well, maybe if you're younger, so I'm in my late 20s. But maybe if you're actually younger, some of these you won't have actually heard before. Some of the examples, like Woolworths and something like that. But maybe, hopefully, you know, your parents have said something to you, so you can kind of relate in some respect. And yeah, it's fantastic. So the whole book isn't about inflation. Don't worry. There actually starts off with giving you a basic introduction to economics, supply and demand, so on and so forth, and in a really sort of non-boring, easy way. Obviously, it does get onto inflation, and that's great. I do think that's important that people start to understand more of what it is, rather than just, oh, prices are increasing. You know, why is it that in England we aim for 2% inflation rate? Why not zero? Why not negative? You know, why do we not want things to be cheaper? It explains that, and it explains it in a really friendly way. It uses the economics jargon. Now, I don't massively agree with using loads of like technical jargon. Unfortunately, though, if you ever want to go into economics or take it further, these are words that you're going to need to use. It puts them in, and it puts them in a really non-threatening way. So that's great. So then if you read this and then you decided to go and do economics, let's say at university, hopefully this economics jargon that you start getting chucked at you, you're already like, that's not so scary. I've read that word before, and actually it just means this. So that's great. It gives loads of references for further reading if that's what you wanted to go and do. Again, I haven't actually gone and done any of the further reading for the references, because it's not necessary in order to enjoy their book and get the understanding. And then the great thing that I think it did as well is it really honed in on, I suppose they should because they work there, it really honed in kind of like the banking system and the fundamental role that the central bank plays in the economy. Now, especially given the cost of living crisis, you've probably heard a lot on the news about Monetary Policy Committee coming together and deciding on something called the base rate, and you probably, you've heard that it's getting raised. Now, part of you might be like, some of you might be like, well, I haven't got a clue, like, why this is relevant, and trust me, like, understanding kind of like what's happening, what's going to go happen in the direction of interest rates is actually quite fundamental to your life. It affects your life, even if you don't want to take economics further or do economics at all. But secondly, and maybe well, you think you get it. You've got this basic understanding. Well, yeah, if they do that, if the base rate rises, if interest rates rise, it disincentivizes people to spend. Therefore, people will save more, and therefore we should get lower inflation. Okay, fine to some extent. Well, one, it massively depends on what's causing the inflation in the first place. But also, what I like about it is maybe you're sitting thinking to yourself, well, what I don't get is why we've got this central bank, and then they do something, and all these other banks follow, and why does it work? Well, it's known as the monetary policy transmission mechanism, and it's very easily just skipped over. It's actually, I think it was even skipped over in my degree. Luckily, well, not luckily, only, I really like macro. I'm doing my PhD on something to do with, like, basically involving a lot to do with central banks. So I've obviously, I've done a lot of work into it and understand it, but I feel that it was a big thing that was missing in my degree, and I just think it's a big thing that maybe general people don't know about. And this book, actually, I was impressed that it put it in. I suppose it has to. It's written by people from the central bank. But also, the way they explain it is lovely. It's very, very intuitive and very easy to understand. So, I think this book really is, one, it could be for people that are thinking, I would like to go and do economics at university, but I would like a bit more of an understanding of what economics actually is. And also, maybe you need something to put on your CV. You could say you read this book and you can talk about why you found it interesting. That would be fantastic. Or maybe, economics affects everybody and you don't fancy going to go and do a degree or anything like that in economics, but you just think a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on in the economy can help you out. And that's definitely true in loads of life decisions, such as whether or not you want to take out a mortgage, whether or not you want to go on holiday, you want to try and understand what's going to happen with the exchange rate, or anything you need to know to do with interest rates. You kind of need a basic understanding of economics here. Or, why do bubbles happen, and then why do they burst? What even is a bubble? And this book talks about it quite nicely. So a really quick video to really recommend this book, and it's quite cheap. What did I pay for it? I don't know. Got it off Amazon. But yeah, really recommend. So bye guys.